And you can also see right now that I've gone in and I've just really quickly drawn in my seam allowance. So like I said, for Jenna, it's 3/8. I recommend when you're doing this that you do the same thing. Just go draw in your seam allowance, whether it's 5/8 for Callie or 3/8 for Jenna, because it just makes sewing it a lot easier. You can kind of see if you even want, we have circle marks on the Jenna pattern. You can really like define those and make them really strong. And it just helps you understand when you're sewing this collar where to turn. So I'm just going to go ahead and just gently stretch that under collar before I go and sew this at the machine. So here I am at my machine. I'm about to sew. And what I'm going to show you first is my favorite method for getting sharp collar points. So this is a bit of a tailoring trick. So I'm just going to go ahead and start sewing that Jenna collar. Remember, seam allowances for this is 3/8. For Callie, it'll be 5/8. As I'm approaching the corner, I've marked where I need to turn, and I want to stop stitching about 1 stitch before where I'm supposed to turn. So I'm just, and actually it's even better here if I shorten my stitch length to about 1.5. So I've got a shorter stitch length, and I'm just trying to see where, I'm going to do one more stitch. Okay, I'm going to stop here. And now what I'm going to do is just take a piece of contrasting thread, about 20, I don't know, 15, 20 inches long, just long enough that you can handle it. I'm going to raise my presser foot. I'm just going to remove this pin here so it's out of the way. And I'm going to slide this thread in between my layers, and I'm going to pull the thread on the right to the back, and then I'm going to pull the thread on the left through the 2 collar pieces. And then I'm going to hang on to both thread tails so that they're pretty tight. And so right now they're wrapped, essentially wrapped around the needle. Okay, so I'm going to just hold them like not super tight, but just taut. I'm going to do one more stitch. And now I have effectively locked this thread tail in between a stitch. So I'm going to raise my foot again. I'm going to now take the right part of that thread tail. I'm going to wrap it around the needle. I'm going to pull it to the back. And now I'm going to grab both thread tails again. And I'm going to turn the collar, and I'm holding that tail. I'm going to put my foot down. Putting my foot down. And I'm going to continue sewing. And I'm going to continue sewing at 3/8, just using that short stitch length for just a little while longer. And once I'm kind of out of the woods, to quote Taylor Swift, I am just going to increase my stitch length. And now I have Taylor Swift stuck in my head. Are we out of the woods yet? Are we out of the woods? Okay, here we go. Do you think we could get licensing for Taylor Swift? Okay. Okay, now as we come around, I'm going to show you how to do it on the other side. It's pretty much the same process. So I'm just going to go back to that 1.5 stitch length. I'm going to get my thread ready. Keep that needle in as long as I can. As I approach, once again, about, I think I need to do one more time, right there. Needle up, or needle plate up, I should say. Wrap that thread in. Pull it tight, do one more stitch, turn my work, needle up, rotate the thread. I feel like it's easier on this side. Holding that with my fingers, I'm kind of pulling the thread. We're trying to do a few things at a time here. Needle down, pulling on that thread, and then sewing. And so just sewing for a little bit, using that 1.5, and then I can lengthen my stitch again. Okay, so here we have the collar that has been assembled. I'm just going to show you what it looks like on both sides. I have these kind of thread tails hanging from the corners, and you just want to be really careful not to accidentally cut those in this step, because right now we're going to grade this seam. It's really important with collars that you grade the seam because we want nice flat seams. Remember that when we grade, the one touching the outer fabric is the longest one, so we're going to be trimming the under collar. So I'm just grading about 1/8 of an inch. Now, if you're sewing Cali, I want you basically to trim the entire collar down by 1/4 of an inch and then trim the under collar seam even shorter, because 5/8 a seam allowance is just too chunky for a collar. Okay, so I've got this graded, and now we need to trim the collar. And this is a stage that gives people really a lot of stress, because you have to trim really, really close to your stitch line. And that's why we went and did that 1.5 short stitch length, because it helps prevent fraying. But you're gonna see how short. I'm basically just gonna start about 1 inch down, and I'm gonna trim, you know, very, very close, within 1 millimeter to the edge of that corner. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other corner. And then I'm just gonna gradually kind of angle it out. And I'm gonna do the same thing here. But I would say you wanna leave about 1 millimeter. Or you would wanna maybe go back over that corner with a maybe even shorter stitch length, just to make sure that it's really secure. So now the magic of sewing this very sharp collar point. I'm going to gently turn this to the right side. And I'm using my finger here. I'm kind of putting my thumb in the corner, and I'm just using my finger to try to push out that collar point a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. But you can see it's still not super sharp. Watch what happens when I just gently pull on this thread tail. It's going to pull on that stitch, because remember, you stitched over this thread. So if I just gently tug on it, it's going to help pull the collar point out. And you can see how much sharper it got. Now, because I'm sewing with chambray and I didn't trim super, super close, I left a little bit of distance. It's not like razor sharp. Like this one, when I did it, was like razor sharp, because the cotton is much finer and you can pull it out even further. But it would be impossible to get chambray sharper than this. And I'm going to do the other thing on the other side. So you can see how dull that corner is. And then as I pull it out, it pulls out that corner. It's just such a cool trick. Now, one thing you don't want to do is pull too hard, because watch what happens if I pull too hard. Oh, it worked. I lied. You can pull. Look, I pulled it all the way out. I was feeling nervous. I just pulled it a little bit harder. So how do I do that again? Listen, I was like, don't over pull it, because sometimes I've over pulled it, and if I've trimmed too close to the seam, it has like pulled, like you end up pulling on the stitching. So you want to be really delicate, but actually look at how sharp that collar. I could cut cheese with that collar point. It's quite sharp. So let's see if I'm a little bit more aggressive with this one, if I could get it to come out a little bit further. Oh, I think that's about as sharp as I can get it, but that is very sharp. So I'm going to press this, and then I'm going to just show you 2 other ways that you can do it, and kind of show you why they don't work, and why, even though like that, you might have watching that, you might have been like, oh, this is too much work. I don't want to do this. It really does make a difference. And to have those really sharp, that's when I'm talking about how much fun shirt making is, and how it's like this like chase for perfection. When you start getting into it, it's stuff like this that is like weirdly satisfying.